Please get ready for a dictation of transcription number 332 and 333 from Sir Kailash Chandra magazine. 5 seconds. Start. Sir, with regard to khadi and village industries, I would like to make one or two general observations before I proceed to take up the various clauses of the bill. The supreme importance of khadi and village industries and their contribution to the development of the national economy are well known. It was no less a person than Mahatma Gandhi who focused the attention of the nation on the key role that these industries, khadi and village industries and cottage industries, have to play in the building up of the nation on balanced lines for nearly 3 decades. He gave the utmost importance to the development of these industries. After the achievement of independence, both the central government and the state governments have lost no opportunity and spared no efforts to give a great fillip to the development of these industries. I would like at the very outset to state that the main responsibility for the development of these industries falls squarely on the shoulders of the state governments. It is the state governments that have got to bear the brunt of this responsibility, and it is the apparatus of the state governments, namely the various departments of industries that they have built up and which are functioning, that has got to discharge the supreme responsibility of developing these industries. But in view of its great importance, sir, the central government has come into the picture. It is not necessary for me at this stage to narrate the developments that have taken place, the discussions that have taken place in regard to the role that the central government has to play in the development of these industries during the last few years. When we were discussing the first 5-year plan, when we were formulating it, and after we formulated the plan, there were discussions at a very high level to bring into being certain central authorities in order to deal with these cottage industries. I am sure the honorable members are aware of the first 5-year plan and its contents, and I need not quote from that plan. It is enough to say that as a result of the efforts made in the beginning of the first 5-year plan and the discussions held at various levels, several All India boards were brought into existence, of which the Khadi and Village Industries Board is very important and deserves consideration. So many boards have been brought into existence. For example, the Handloom Board, the Small Scale Industries Board, the Coir Board and the Tea Board, the Rubber Board, and so on. During the discussions on the second 5-year plan, when it was in the stage of formulation, it was decided that these industries should play a very vital role in the development of our national economy, and for well-known reasons. Centralization of industries is a thing about which we have heard so much on several occasions, and its importance is well realized. We want to increase production to the maximum possible extent in respect of certain selected consumer industries without at the same time impairing or prejudicially affecting the maximum amount of production of some other goods that is necessary for our expanding economy. It is in this context that a decision has been taken that we have to give the maximum assistance and support for the development of these industries, and these all India bodies have been brought into existence only for the purpose of, if I may say so, supplementing the efforts of the state governments and not supplanting the efforts of the state governments. This is a point which has got to be very carefully borne in mind. Whenever an All India body is being brought into existence, it is not as if there is any desire on the part of the central government to take away the authority of the state governments or to over-centralize anything, but there is generally every desire to supplement the efforts of the state governments. In respect of these industries, the sole desire is to assist the state governments by giving them financial support and by guiding them in matters of policy. Well, sir, a little while ago I was giving the genesis of the Khadi and Village Industries Board. It was conceived mainly as an advisory body, that is to say, to advise the central government and the state governments in the matter of planning these cottage industries and preparing schemes for the development of cottage industries of various types and giving some sort of support and strength by those who have got a considerable experience in the building up of these industries over a long period of time in 2 or 3 decades. Though it was mainly conceived as an advisory body, yet certain executive functions were made to come within the purview of the working of this board. I need not refer at the present moment to the several executive functions that were given to this board. Sir, as you are aware, under the Constitution, certain rights have been reserved for the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes as laid down in Article 330 of the Constitution. Now, the principal point in respect of which this right was reserved or recognized was that there ought to be reservation of seats so far as the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes were concerned in the Parliament and in the state legislatures. Then, sir, it was left to the President to prepare the lists and to promulgate them so far as these tribes were concerned, and therefore, under Article 341(1), these orders were issued by the President under the authority which had vested in him. In all, as many as 4 orders were issued in 1950, and according to these orders, effect has been given and seats were reserved at the last general elections and naturally at the subsequent by-elections as well. Sir, at the time when these lists were under preparation and subsequently also, a number of complaints were made to the Government of India, and according to some, the lists were incomplete, and according to others, there were certain communities, certain tribes or castes which ought not to have been included, and therefore, when under Article 340 of the Constitution, the government appointed the Backward Classes Commission in 1953, they requested the Backward Classes Commission also to consider the question as to whether there ought to be any additions to or reductions from the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes orders as pointed out by me just now. Now, the whole question was considered by the Backward Classes Commission, and in Volume 2 of their report, they have dealt with this question on the information that they then had. Thereafter, sir, twice the views of the Backward Classes Commission were sent to the state governments. In the first place, we requested them to offer to us their views or reactions. They were received, and thereafter the government considered all those matters as also the suggestions and again sent back their tentative views to the state governments. The state governments considered this matter, and thereafter their views in a final shape came, and after the receipt of all this material and after considering all the circumstances, the government took certain decisions. Then, sir, there are certain matters which I should like to explain to this Honorable House so far as the main principles on which the present amending bill has been brought forward. The Backward Classes Commission, sir, made certain recommendations. In respect of these, there were 3 important suggestions that the Backward Classes Commission made. One was, as you are aware, sir, in respect of the untouchables amongst the Sikh community. Now, it was at one time contended that the Sikhs were not Hindus at all. That was rather a wide claim. Then they also contended that they had no caste system as such amongst the Sikhs. Therefore, there could be no question of any caste being recognized as a scheduled caste because, as you are aware, sir, the members should belong to the Hindu community, and it was one of the fundamental or vital points on which a community within that particular tribe or within that particular group of people could be recognized as a scheduled caste. In respect of scheduled tribes, sir, the question of their belonging to a particular religion need not be taken into account, and there are scheduled tribes who have been recognized in these orders who belong either to the Hindu community or to the Christian community, or they follow certain customs and manners which may not come within the established doctrines of either Hinduism or Christianity. Therefore, sir, so far as the scheduled tribes were concerned, the question of their being members of the Hindu community was not taken into account at all. But so far as the scheduled castes are concerned, we have to understand here the historical fact that these were members of the Hindu religion, but on account of certain notions prevailing in ancient India, certain people, our own people, were unfortunately recognized as untouchables, as they are called, and therefore certain very bad practices based on the alleged doctrine of untouchability grew up, and that to a very large extent, as you are aware, sir, polluted the very good atmosphere that ought to have been associated with the Hindu religion. So for centuries together, this disability remained amongst these people. But thanks to Gandhiji and to a number of other great leaders of ours, this question was taken up, and since then, especially during the last 30 years, sir, considerable headway has been made so far as the annihilation of this practice of untouchability is concerned. Stop.